Hello everybody, and welcome to this month's One Step workshop. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to hop on, grab a cup of tea, glass of wine, lemonade, whatever takes your fancy, and then we'll get going in a few minutes. We usually run for about an hour, and tonight I have many pages of notes. This was quite an exciting topic, I thought a pretty important one, so lots to say about this. I'd like to get through all the important points and answer some questions that I got in as well. So hopefully a really useful session. So again, thank you for those of you who submitted and voted for this topic. Now, first of all, before we get into this, and again, while we wait for people to hop on, I want to say a massive welcome as ever to our new members. Really great to see you here. I really appreciate your trust in joining the group, and I hope you find what you're looking for here in this community and from these training sessions that we're running. Now, first thing to note is when you join, you should have received a message from me or from Cara. And hello, do say hi when you join. Drop me an emoji for how you're feeling tonight, why not? We'll get going in a few minutes. So I was just saying, when you're new to the group, massive welcome to you. Check out your inbox. I did a video the other day to show you how you can get to your message requests. You can only do it on desktop as far as I'm aware. Because we're not connected, I can't see you. If for whatever reason, or you can't see me rather, if for whatever reason you can't see my messages anyway, then feel free to add me on Facebook. I'm very open on Facebook. I mainly use it for business, so no problems at all. Just add me and then we can have a bit of a dialogue back and forth. Cara Cahill, who you may have come across, is our community manager here, as well as many other things on the One Step Outside business, and she will be reaching out as well to make sure you're all set up. She'll tag you in the welcome video, and then she'll be guiding you through the group over the next few weeks as well. Speaking of which, hello Cara, great to see you. Can I press wave here? Hang on, let's just see what happens. Yeah, I waved at Cara. There you go. So just talking about Cara, she's reaching out to you guys via inbox. Do check your message requests on desktop. And if you can't find them, no worries at all, message me or add me as a friend or whatever you want to do. Comment in the video below and we'll make sure we can chat to you to get you all set up. So again, a massive welcome to all the new members. You are joining at an exciting time. It is back to school. Don't know about you, but all my friends are posting lots of cute pictures of their kids going back to school or starting the new year or starting school, which is all very exciting. So we'll have that same energy here at One Step Outside as well. And I should of course say, in case you're not yet familiar with me, but I imagine you are since you've joined the group, my name is Lundberg, and I'm the founder of this company, One Step Outside. As you can see, everything you've ever wanted is one step outside your comfort zone, which is a mantra I try to live by, and I hope you do too. And this group is all around reimagining success, specifically outside of the confines of the corporate 9-to-5, that conveyor belt of your conventional career, and really imagining a definition of success that includes your family and your hobbies and travelling and health and well-being and all those wonderful things. Angela, great to see you. Lovely to have you in your lovely red hat back, and no worries at all. You can obviously catch up with the replay later on, and that goes for all of you. So of course, if you can't watch these live, then do please, if possible, submit your questions ahead of time so I can make sure to cover them. And of course, you can watch the replay afterwards. We've now created a section where there are units, one-step workshops under the units. Again, I've done a video that's posted in the announcements and that shows you how to get to those videos. You can hopefully get them on the right of the page. It says units, at least on mine it does, and also on the left underneath discussion and so on, there should be a tab called units. You'll find all of our guest expert videos as well as the latest one-step workshops. So that's how you can find those if you've missed the live session. I know things get pretty messy. So again, I'm the founder of One Step Outside. You may have come across my book, Leaving the Corporate 9-to-5, stories from people who've done it and how you can too. And another great thing to dive into, if you haven't already, is the Reimagining Success podcast. Hopefully you can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, most of the different channels, Google and so on. You can either search my name, Anna Lundberg, if you can spell it, or you can search for Reimagining Success and that should hopefully come up. So it's just one more way in which you can absorb, immerse yourself in the content, get inspired, hopefully get some exercises and tips and have some accountability to move forwards. It's a weekly episode every Thursday, max about 15-20 minutes, so it's pretty bite-sized and easy to get on with. Now again, for those of you who are new and the rest of you too, again, welcome back after the summer. Maybe you've been away, and do say hi when you pop on and let me know how you're getting on. Maybe what drink you're drinking, how your summer's been, give us a weather update. The usual little update would be lovely. So this is a relatively new format that we're doing, this monthly one-step workshop. We've done a couple of topics already. I guess we did July and August already. So again, maybe some of you missed those because it was summer holidays and you're off dreaming of other things, and now you're back into school mode. So we talked about how to do all the things, how to balance your business, your career, your work with your health, your family and so on. That was the first one we did back in July, and then last month we also did how to manage a side hustle, so how to start a business alongside a very challenging job. Hello Annalie, great to see you as well. First time I think on one of these, and I have your question of course that we're going to be answering later on. So really good to see you. So again, these are workshops that are very much for you and coming from you. So if you can please submit any topics, again, via direct message and via, tagging me in something in a comment or letting me know now, whatever you want to do, just let me know, and we'll basically do a monthly poll where we ask the group, okay, these are the submitted topics, what would you like me to focus on? And then I'll definitely do the top topic, and if the second topic is very popular too, then of course I'll make sure to cover that as well. But just to make sure that these training sessions are, answering your questions and not just me sitting here making up stuff as I go, but really trying to answer the burning, urgent questions that you have. And this month's topic is a great one, and I'll start in just a moment on how to start a business with little budget. Little budget, we have to define what that means, but we'll talk about that in a second. And the only other thing I want to say as well is that you may have seen me post about this. It's really exciting. We've got the Corporate Escape Plan workshop. This is a 5-session workshop, so a bit like tonight, much more interactive. There's a workbook. Angela, you've been on these before, haven't you? There's homework, there's prizes, there's raffles, there's all sorts of things going on. You'll see if it's the first time in the group and in one of these workshops how crazy it gets here, but it's pretty fun as well as intense. It starts next Sunday the 15th September, runs for 5 nights, same time, 8 o'clock UK time, probably for about an hour, and then a bit of work in between. Really to help you, whether you're at the beginning of the journey, map out what you think are the reasons why you want to leave, what do you want to leave to, what kind of business might you start, and what are the gaps, what are the skills missing, knowledge, what are the steps you need to take, and above all, what is the deadline, what's the milestone that you're working towards. But also, again, as I said earlier today as well, if you have the fundamentals in place but you haven't yet replaced your income, then I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you haven't quite escaped yet. So escaping the 9 to 5 is not just that decision of quitting your job. That's exciting, it's a massive leap, or even the decision to start a business. But the true escape comes, and this is where most people fail, I think, when we've actually built a strong foundation for the business. We have clients, we have money coming in, and not just money sporadically from a bit of word of mouth and so on, but really a consistent stream of income coming in every month, every year, and making that sustainable for ourselves and our families. Hooray! Angela agrees that they're excellent. Good to hear it. We have a lot of fun, and there's going to be much more of these. We've had a bit of a hiatus over the summer, but again, we're doing one now starting next Sunday, and then probably there'll be one in January, because September and January tend to be those sort of beginning of the year sessions, don't they, when everyone's excited and buying all that new stationery and buying colourful pens and planning their lives. So good time to refocus. So any questions on any of that, let me know. For the Corporate Escape Plan, you can message me again with your email address and we'll get you signed up, or you can sign up at onestepoutside.com/escape. Very exciting. So more on that, of course, in the coming days, and I'll be posting about that every day. So apologies to those of you who you don't think this is relevant for, but hopefully it is, because again, I think it covers quite a wide group of people. And if you feel like you're further along, I know some of you are quite established in your businesses, don't worry. Again, that's what these monthly workshops are for. You can submit your more sophisticated topics if you want, and of course message me as well, and we'll have other challenges coming up soon, so fear not. Now, without further ado, we want to talk about the topic of how to start a business with little budget. Now, this is a big topic. And by the way, do say hi when you come on. I've seen a few of you, but I'd love to see who else is here, and welcome to the workshop. Hopefully you're excited about this topic. It is a big one, as I said, but an important one. And again, I think I've actually had a few sort of realizations myself in going through planning for this workshop. And again, I have quite a few pages of notes here, so we'll see how much we get through. But really, it's something that we can do, whether we're at the beginning of the business and just think about it theoretically, or again, if we're a bit more established and reviewing our costs and thinking about, hang on a second, do I really need to be spending that? Should I be investing here? And so on are some really important questions. So just, I guess, to set the stage, this whole topic sort of made me think of my corporate days, actually. I was heading up the digital team at Procter & Gamble. Right in the perfume department, so Fine Fragrance it was called, marketing beautiful perfumes like Dolce & Gabbana, Hugo Boss, Lacoste and so on. And I had gradually specialised in digital and heading up the team, and I was driving the training sessions, I was creating the strategy. It was a pretty exciting role. I really got to sort of shape the whole thing. And funnily enough, at that time, that's not even that long ago, so I probably started at Procter & Gamble 2007. I started specialising in digital over the years, and then kind of 2010, 2011. But that's almost 20 years, almost, not quite that much, almost 10 years ago already. At the time, digital was, believe it or not, pretty new still. Google, YouTube, Facebook, these things have all come, not that long ago, although they seem very well established. And at the time, digital was very new compared to the TV ads we've been doing, the classic 30-second, 10-second, 15-second ads. And also the print ads. So in luxury perfume, we had, we wanted the first 10%, I think, and of the magazine, with the beautiful Chanel and Dior ads and all these celebrities and so on. So that was the traditional marketing approach. Digital came along, and everyone expected from me, from the team, that it was free. So the idea is, oh my gosh, digital marketing, it's free, really low cost, you can get a massive ROI, return on investment, and they had very high expectations, although we didn't have a lot of studies on this. Now, the other thing to note now, of course, is that starting your own business is easier than ever before, which is why it's such an exciting time. So if you ever thought about starting a business, now is the time to do it. It has never been so quick and easy to get a website up, get the support you need to work out what your business model is, work with a coach, do a course, do it all yourself, whatever it is you want to do, and begin to market that online, for example. You don't need premises, you don't need an office, you don't need a massive team, you don't need massive VC investment, you don't need all that money and infrastructure that you needed in the past. However, as is clear from starting a business, as much as is clear with the digital back at Procter & Gamble when they thought it was free, it is not actually free. So when we're saying little budget, we're saying little budget, not no budget. Because even, let's say, posting on social media, first of all, that takes time. So it's opportunity cost when you could be spending that time on something else. And also creating amazing content, whether it's graphics or copy, posts, videos now is time consuming, but also again requires money. Maybe you're not quite doing the massive glamorous shoot that you were doing for the TV copy, but certainly you want to be crafting something pretty nice to go out and at least thinking about it, and doing some nice pictures and images and videos and so on. So that costs money. And then of course, as I'm sure you guys know, things like Facebook, the dreaded algorithm where organic posting, so just posting, isn't necessarily going to reach the people you want to reach, and you are going to need to potentially invest in advertising. So quite old school, a bit like the TV and print ads of the past, of magazines and so on, but you'll need to promote your content if you want to reach more people. So it's a bit facetious to say that it is free, but nonetheless it is, there are massive opportunities to actually start a business with a little budget. Sorry, my nose is itching, so apologies if I keep touching my nose. That's the challenge for this evening. Last week it was coughing, and now this time around we have a bit of an itchy nose. But there you go, there's always something when you do these things. So apologies if I look down, it's just I look down at my notes. There's so many things I want to cover, so I want to make sure that we go through it all. So the way I want to handle this is first to look at how you're going to set up your business to begin with. So again, it may be a bit foundational for those of you who are a bit further along, but I still think it's worth reviewing these things. So think about the business model that you have to make it free or cheaper, and also think about the strategy you have, the client and the pricing and so on. And then the second piece is actually what can you do for free, and what should you be investing in? And that's, I know, where there are lots of questions coming in. So hopefully that sort of covers the aspects from big picture vision and strategy right down to the practicalities. But throughout the session, do please ask more questions, if anything's not clear. Those of you watching the replay, hello, let me know, #replay in the comments. And again, you can ask your questions as well as if it were live, and I'll come back to you as soon as I'm awake in my time zone and I can help you out. So the first thing to talk about is setting up for success. And I'd love to hear, by the way, not just your questions, but also your experiences, especially if you're a bit further along in the process. You might want to share your own wisdom with the group. That's always really helpful to have this group dynamic as well. So from setting up for success in terms of the business model. Now, I'd say I work mostly with people who have service-based businesses, which is ironic because I come from a product-based business, of course. So I was selling physical products, the perfume, the skincare, the makeup, and working on that brand and marketing and so on. However, the reason why I tend to focus on service, and why I myself am doing a service-based business, or consulting, coaching, these types of things, graphic design, copywriting and so on, is these are the types of businesses that are easier to get off the ground and don't require that massive infrastructure. With a product business, it's not impossible, but you need to have a product, you need the raw materials for that, you need to invent or create something, you need to make it, you need to test it, you need to get it out to your people and do market research on it, you need to tweak it, you need to improve it, then you need to start, mass producing it, you need storage, you need, for inventory and all these things. So product-based companies, not impossible, but it's more of sort of a mid to long-term plan. That again requires more upfront investment. Now, caveating that for a moment, Serena here in the group, for example, and there are others too. Serena has got a bakery off the ground, Leona Incredible Cakes, which are pretty incredible. She's doing fantastically well this year, massively overperforming versus last year already. She did actually start out, and she wasn't a baker. She comes from a marketing background like myself, just as it turns out, very good with her hands and good at baking. She started out in her kitchen at home, baking cakes at home, very small scale. She had the marketing know-how, like me, very quickly can put up a website and Facebook page and so on, start marketing that. Now she's, a year ago or so moved into proper premises and so on. So if you do want to start, a jewellery business, a crafts business, a baking, the innocent smoothie guys, if you've heard of them, here in the UK we have these smoothies. They also started out by mixing the drinks at home, and then they were bought up by Pepsi, I think, eventually. Massive conglomerate now. So, it's totally possible, but just when you're thinking of your business model, if you want to have really low investment from the beginning, and if you want to get that off the ground, if you want to at least transition out of the corporate 9-to-5 quickly, then probably a service-based business will be more for you. So does that make sense? I don't know where you guys are. I know, Angela, you're already further along. Annalie, not sure where you are either with your business, but probably, I imagine, a lot of you are doing sort of the online service-based industries. Again, it could be consulting, which is taking your existing skills and expertise and sort of hiring that out virtually, right? Coming to different companies, individuals, whatever it might be. Coaching as well, for coaching, all I need is a phone or email, computer. I can come on Facebook Live here with you guys. I don't need a massive factory or whatever it might be. So that's in terms of the business model, if that makes sense. Another one which is a bit more complex, but in case anyone is interested, is kind of the brokerage model. So if you think of a peer-to-peer like Airbnb or even Uber to some extent, the idea of connecting buyers with sellers in a way. So that requires less of an investment and infrastructure, because you're just becoming the platform to bring people together. So you might have a course platform or even a coaching platform, let's say. Rather than me coaching you guys, I could create a platform where I bring together lots of coaches, and coaches want visibility, coaches want to sell their services. So lots of coaches will be interested in coming onto my website, and then I'll connect them, I'll do the marketing for them, and I'll make sure I get lots of clients, and then I'll take a commission or so on from that. So a bit like eBay, I get Airbnb, all these. So that kind of brokerage model, the peer-to-peer, again, is lower cost, requires less budget upfront than a product-based business. So obviously these are quite fundamental questions, but it's important to think about the business model from the beginning. There's no point in trying to say, hey, I want to start this, whatever it might be, I don't know, fashion label, luxury fashion at a low cost. Okay, you can try, but there are certain things that are required for that, and both in terms of the product itself and then to get that off the ground, marketing, if that makes sense. So that's from the business model perspective. Now, the second thing is the strategy. And again, this is very much upfront, but if you're further along, it might be worth reviewing it. What you don't want to do is just go, oh my gosh, I really want to do this. I'm going to put up a website and this is my business, ta-da, sell my services, and that's it. As it turns out, that probably won't work, because that's something that I want to do. I want to now be a coach or a writer. I haven't done any due diligence in terms of market research, finding out, is there a market, is there a demand for these things? Are there clients who are willing and able to pay for this? What does the competition look like? Obviously, every market now is pretty saturated, but still it's good to know, if there's no competition, probably that means either that you're incredibly inventive and pioneering, you're the only person who's ever thought of this, or it means there actually isn't a market for this at the moment. So maybe that's a problem too, ironically. Less competition means it might not be the best thing. But really doing that research up front to understand, is this a good idea that has legs? And to do some testing, focus groups, or just literally talk to some clients, potential clients, and see whether they're companies or individuals, see, is there actually a demand for this? And I always encourage my clients to do that, get people on the phone. It's not trying to sell them. You're literally just saying, hey, as an expert in this field, I'd love to pick your brains. Can I grab a coffee with you? Can we grab a 10-minute phone call, whatever it might be? So that's really important, to do that due diligence on the market that exists and are their clients. Now, I say clients, it's incredibly important to think about who your client is. Back at P&G, our CEO used to say, consumer is boss. So everything we did was anchored and rooted in research about the consumer. So really understanding the deep insights. If we came up with actually I should say the original product came from a soap that the housewives of the 50s or whatever were dropping the soap in the tub and they lost it, and so P&G invented a floating soap. Incredible. So suddenly the housewives, unfortunately it was wives, didn't lose the soap, and it was floating around in the pool. Great. So these examples, but there's so many of those, and it was really anchored in understanding the consumer. We need to do the same in our business. Who is the client? Again, are they willing and able to pay? And here there's an important choice as well to make. And I realise I'm speaking at you guys, so do now and then tell me yes, that makes sense, or I have a question, or just put a smiley emoji, whatever you want to do, just to make sure I know that you're still there and listening and that it's still relevant for you. So just jump in at any moment. But in terms of choosing your customer, I see again and again people, and especially coaches, actually come out of the coach training and they say, I want to work with single mothers, and I want to work with, unfortunate blah, 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 some kind of great cause that they want to align themselves with. And then they suddenly realise these people can't afford their services. What happens? They end up going to some sort of corporate executive kind of coaching, because that's where the money is. Now, those are two extremes. It's sort of the black and white picture of everything, and really there are options in between. One option is to work with corporations, earn money from those jobs, for example, and then do pro bono or volunteering, for example, with the less fortunate group or whatever it is. Thank you, Annalie, good to hear. I want to know that you're here. Thank you, Cara, great that you're enjoying it as well. So you can always work with the company and get the money that way, and then you can invest your time pro bono, volunteer, have scholarships and things. That's something I've done in the past as well. Or somewhere in between, you can find companies, organizations and this probably is what I recommend, whose values you really align with, and to really make sure that you enjoy working with them and you want to do great work with them and so on. But again, companies will be able to pay more than individuals. So if we're talking about starting with a little budget, there's also the other side of the coin, which is trying to earn money as quickly as possible. You might choose to do a few company projects to get the money that they can invest, which is going to be much higher than clients. Let's say I need 10 individual clients, unless I work with millionaires, which could be you, who knows. Thank you, Memnia, great to see you as well. Loving all your posts, you're doing such incredible things, Memnia, so really excited to follow you and what you're doing as well. So again, you can work with, one company, maybe one corporate client will give you as much as 10 individuals. So that's something to consider as well in the upfront strategy. And then the final piece I want to talk about there is the pricing. Now, this is a whole training in itself, but of course, if you have any questions, let me know. But again, there, and I'm sort of, I'm sort of seeping into territory of earning money rather than not spending it. But it's a bit of the other side of the coin, because we can start things with a little budget, but we still eventually need money coming in. And so when it comes to pricing, again, we have that client who's able and willing to pay, and there's all sorts of, essentially it comes down to mathematics, right? We need to look at the year. What is our target? What are our expenses? What do we want to earn? And then how many hours can we or do we want to work in the year? And what does that mean in terms of how many clients do you need and what price point? And it's probably going to be much higher than you realise, especially when you're coming from a corporate employment situation, when you've been a full-time employee with a salary, because you're going to have to pay tax, admin, accounting, and you're not going to get your sick days and bonuses and all these things. So don't just take your salary and divide that by 52 weeks, 365 days. You do not want to be working that many hours. And you also have a lot of business development, marketing, admin, finance time, and so on. So, really looking at your pricing, of course, is going to help to make sure you get the money coming in. So that is on the strategy side. So that's maybe sort of bigger picture and a step back from what you were expecting from the training, but I did just want to raise that as sort of laying the groundwork looking at the business model, thinking about service versus product. You can literally put up a Facebook page. You don't even need a website. You can have a free website. You don't need business cards these days. You can talk to people, and in that way you can sell your services. Boom, done, very little budget. Whereas if you need the inventory, if you need to design a product and so on, you need raw materials, ingredients in the case of baking, that might cost a little bit more money. And then again, in terms of doing the due diligence, making sure there's a market for it, and really understanding what is the investment required, because it may be that you found an area where actually you do need quite a bit of upfront investment. Maybe you need a formal qualification, certification, maybe there's some legal aspect there. So, doing that research before you launch into something is really important. So that's the theoretical part. Let me know what you think of that, and if there's any, what your big takeaway is from that, if there's something that, applies to your situation or makes you feel reassured that you're in the right place. And I see a few more people joining, so do say hello. And since you've missed the beginning, we've just been talking about the big picture sort of strategy and business model. So do go back and listen to that with the replay if you can later on. But then I want to get into more of the nitty gritty, right? So what are the tasks and things we can do for free? And the first one is to really think about, literally, and again, especially if you're at the beginning of the journey, what do you have? What can you do? And sorry, there's a gross little insect flying past. I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, but in case I get distracted, that's what's happening. There's always, these are fun things happening on live training. So think about, what are you good at? So you may be an excellent graphic designer, you may be a fantastic writer, you may be a whiz with numbers, whatever your particular forte is. Obviously that's a great place to start with doing that work yourself for free, right? So that's mapping out sort of your own skills, your experience. Of course, if you're an accountant by trade, you can probably do those numbers yourself. It doesn't really make sense to pay lots of money for someone else to do that. If you're a graphic designer, why on earth should you pay a graphic designer if you're a great writer as well? So really think about your skill set, your knowledge, and what you have. Then think also about your network and what you can get for free. So maybe, it's something you can't do, but you know someone, and be a bit cheeky here. You might have friends, colleagues, peers, whatever it might be. If you're lucky, you can get it completely for free as a favour, who knows? Or you might consider bartering. So this is something we did back in my coach training. I would coach a peer, she would coach me back. Not at the same time, because that wasn't quite ethical. So we do 6 sessions, I'd coach her, 6 sessions back. Or it could be, I'll give you career coaching for an hour and you'll do this graphic design work for me. Obviously you want it to be sort of on a par with the investment, but that is a way to start out. You can do graphic design for somebody, they'll do the copywriting for you, and vice versa. So just seeing what Annalise said. So thanks for bringing up the option of starting with having a corporate client as a way of bringing in money more quickly. Yeah, absolutely, Annalise. So I think the important thing here is that it could be not necessarily the vision for the business that you have in the future. Maybe your dream is working with individual clients, or your dream is creating that product business. But again, if we're keen to get things off the ground quickly, if we want to escape that 9 to 5 right away and have freedom, flexibility, fulfillment that we're always talking about, and if you want money coming in right away, then we might consider some compromises. It's important to still, I think, work with companies, again, where we have the values aligned. I've still done quite a bit of corporate marketing, consulting work and writing, but I've managed to shift it in a direction where I'm doing virtual training sessions, a bit like this, but more in terms of sort of digital marketing and business strategy and so on. I do a lot of writing with them as well, and I do presenting against like a green screen training, and those are things I really enjoy doing. I stay on top of the latest digital and business developments, and so I love that. That doesn't feel like a burden. If you're just doing something to bring in money, and that's work, by the way, Annalie, this is important, is taking time and effort away from your true passion, that means you've gone too far in that direction. So we always need to balance the short-term need to bring in money with the longer-term vision, right? Because what we don't want is to have a very successful business based on, logistical framework and also clients and project work that we don't want to be doing. There's no point in me having a successful marketing business if what I really want to do is be a coach and a writer over here. So that's just something to think about, but definitely it's a great way to think in the short term that, just get a couple of corporate clients and then I can focus on bringing in individuals. Also, again, just to go back to the pricing piece, and this is something that we see a lot, if I think about like a lot of the sort of celebrity coaches and people that we follow, and we'll talk about this later on as well. I think you guys were asking about this in terms of all the coaches and people that you see coming up in your feed. How do you know they're authentic and so on? A lot of these people are very, very well established. They have audiences of tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of people watching their stuff, and for them it's very easy to get 10,000 people onto their program, right? They might have a low price point, get lots of money. For those of us starting out, we don't yet have that. We'll talk about building an audience in a moment. But when we don't have that massive, and probably never will have that massive reach, I certainly don't. We have, 800 people in this group. I've got like 1,000 people on Instagram, several thousand on LinkedIn, whatever it might be, my list as well. It's never going to be, I think, that massive scale. So then we really need to think about, okay, within my little niche, within my little world, how many clients is it likely or feasible that I can get? So again, that's where maybe corporate clients come in, and also where your pricing has a part to play. But again, so looking at your skills, your knowledge, what can you do? Thinking of your network, where can you sort of get in a favour for a friend or something, and also thinking of bartering, and that's a really good way to exchange services with somebody else. Learning, of course, is a massive value for me. I think it is for all of you, and as an entrepreneur we need to really embrace learning new skills and investing in ourselves. And it may be, and certainly if you have more time than money, and that's a key question here, that you can and should immerse yourself in new skills. So when I first started, I had no idea about anything, I must admit, business wise, but I started with a free WordPress website, and I gradually learned about the self-hosted website on WordPress. I got a host, SiteGround, the domain, of course, and so on. I learned about the different plugins. I've even gradually learned a bit of CSS and HTML, so I can tweak things as I go. These are things I had never had a clue about sort of 6 years ago, and I chose to do these things. Now you can choose not to. You can recognize that this is something you'll never learn, and it's something you never want to learn, in which case, that might be an area that you want to invest in or try to avoid altogether in your business. But there are many areas that I think you can choose to learn more about. Some areas also, by the way, are important to learn more about. So accounting, maybe that's not your strength, but knowing your own numbers is super important. So even if you eventually outsource to an accountant, you still want to make sure that you've understood the numbers yourself and you're on top of that. So again, learning might be an option for you, right, to do it for free. And I don't mean signing up to a 2-year MBA or investing £10,000 in some expensive course or program or lots of courses. There is a lot of free content. So you can really pinpoint where you need to learn, and that's something you can just, every time I need to make some text bold or change the color or whatever, all I need to do is Google that and it comes up how to do that in the HTML. So it's not too tricky. Also, by the way, this is, we're saying little budget, not no budget, so I'll throw this in. There are always opportunities. I'm incredibly fortunate that I came across Lucia, who did my latest batch of photographs last year, sort of all the photos you see basically, and she was doing that very cheap because she was just starting out as a new photographer. So I barely want to tell you how much I paid her, but hardly anything. And those have been incredible, and she, we had an hour together. She was happy to get a testimonial from me, and I got some fantastic photos that I constantly get compliments on, so that's really great. And of course I then do my best to promote her and share her and recommend her to friends. So if anyone's looking for photos here in London, then I'll let you know who that is. But there might be deals like that. Someone who's just starting out, who's incredible, but just needs to get those first few clients, in which case, that's a great opportunity for you to get a really good quality service at a low cost. So that's something to think about. So those are just some little skills and tasks, and we'll talk about outsourcing in a few minutes. Just keeping an eye on the clock, because already, my goodness, we've gone over half an hour, so there you go. So building an audience. I always talk about how this is the most important thing you have to do first thing when you start a business. And I wonder, I'll ask the question already now, so you have a few minutes to answer, but can you throw ideas at me, and those of you watching the replay as well, let me know. And what are the different ways you think you can build an audience for free? So just let me know anything you're doing or think you could do in order to get your message out there, get people coming to you and wanting to buy for you. So just have a think about what might be some ways that you can build an audience for free. Because just before I share my own ideas and what I do and what I have done, yes, you can invest in Facebook ads, for example, to reach people. If you have a lot of money and or you want to get very quick results, investing in advertising will be a quick way to do that. You can very quickly target the right people on Facebook, get X amount of people coming to your website or converting or just seeing your video, whatever it is. So advertising, when you have the money, is a great way to build an audience. And Memney, I love it. So you're saying making an offer or a gift or a competition. Absolutely. And where would you share that then, Memney? So how would you let people know that competition or offer was happening? That's a great incentive, obviously, but how would you communicate that to people? So anyone else who's watching, again, if you're watching the live, if you're watching the replay here, let me know if you can think of any ways to build an audience, and I'll start listing a few ways that I've done it and that you can try doing as well. And I'm going to say that the natural place to start, I guess, is with a website. Now, again, caveat there is that me just putting up a website doesn't build my audience, right? The fact that I go, ta-da, I'm a coach, here's my website, onestepoutside.com, does not mean that suddenly I have an audience. That just means I have this platform that I own. However, in theory at least, if I optimize that for search and if I then share that on social media, and Memnia, yes, absolutely, you've said you can share that on Facebook, for example, that is then a way of building the audience. So even without ads, me just, and I've always done this, sharing automatically, and WordPress can do this, your posts onto all the channels that you already have, LinkedIn, my personal Facebook initially, and then professional page, business page. Twitter goes out, don't use a lot, but I publish all my old posts on there as well, and so on. So just having your website with your blogs, and sharing on social media, and also optimizing for search. Search optimization, pretty tricky to do these days. There are so many websites out there, you need to be pretty niche, but in theory, at least over time, that's a way to attract people gradually. And in fact, I just had someone the other day tell me that they had searched, should I change career, how do I change career, and they found me. So hopefully I'm doing something right. So that's the first place to start. Annalise saying absolutely, blog posts and content upgrades. Lead magnets, absolutely. So content upgrades and lead magnets, for those of you who aren't familiar, these are the kind of traditional things, and I have a lot of these too. It might be a PDF download, video series, a little mini course or something that we're asking you to opt in for, to give your email address. That's how we get your email address, and then we can send you that email content, video, course, book, whatever it might be. And in that way, I've not just built my audience. It's not just that you've seen my content, but actually now have your email, so I can continue sharing updates with you, ultimately selling things further on down the line. So that's a fantastic way to not just build the audience, Annalie, in terms of the eyeballs, I guess, but also actually owning that audience, as it were, because you actually have that email address. Just check, because I did think I saw a post that I may have missed here. I know it was Memia saying Facebook. Yes, absolutely. You can share a competition like that or something on Facebook. So the first one being blog, SEO, social media. Another thing which is free but time consuming is to connect with people on social media, right? So there's a classic horrible thing on Instagram, which is the follow-unfollow strategy, which I don't do. And perhaps that's why I only have a certain number of followers on Instagram. But nonetheless, following people on Instagram, commenting and so on in a genuine way, authentic comments, I'll go, Memnia, that's a really gorgeous picture, oh my gosh, that's incredible, or there's an inspirational quote or something. That is a way to get your content in front of other people, because Memnia might think, oh, who's this lovely person, Anna, who's commented and said she likes my quote, and she'll come on over and say, oh, I love the sound of this, reimagining success one step outside, and she'll follow me and she'll see my things. So engaging, following people on Instagram is one way. LinkedIn, it depends on, of course, who your client is, where they're active, but just adding connections on LinkedIn who are relevant, that means that more people are going to see the posts you make there. And again, that's very much free. Also messaging back and forth, it's completely free. And Facebook is a little bit more tricky because, unfortunately we do tend to need ads to get things in front of people, but nonetheless, creating a group, creating a community like this one, completely free. For now, at least. By the way, there are rumours that Facebook is going to charge for these things, which would be such a shame, but for now at least, I can create that for free. I can post and you guys can see it for free. And having a business page, personal page, sharing your content on Facebook is absolutely free. So sharing, engaging, connecting with people on social media is big. One that you may not be aware of, it's something where I really started when I first began a few years ago, is Quora. Quora. It's very popular in India, funnily enough. I just had someone from India chat to me the other day. But it's a platform where a lot of big names are on there too, but anyone and everyone can answer questions. And the more niche you are, I must admit I haven't done this probably in a year or so, but the more specific you are, the more you can, answer the questions that are really specific to your expertise, and then people will find those answers, and they'll then link back to your website or follow you, get your content upgrade, your book, whatever it might be. So when I first started out, I answered a lot of questions about personal branding and audiences, and is it too late to change career at 54, and all these things, work-life balance, all the topics that I'm really passionate about. And those answers are still there, in theory. And again, this is what I did before. You can have that in one of your time blocks during the week, and just check in on some of the latest questions on Quora, and then you can do that once a week. In fact, you can stay on top of that. That is free. It's relatively easy. What I did often as well was I took my blog posts and just copy pasted those into the answers when they were relevant. So repurposing content, and in fact there are if your content gets a lot of upvotes, views, likes, comments and things, they might get picked up. So a few of mine have been picked up by different media publications as well. So Quora.com, by the way, they now have ads as well, but nonetheless the basic premise of it is free, so that's a really good option too. A couple of more things. I know one of you was talking about networking, we'll talk about that in a minute, but in theory, again, events are free. Talking to people, last year I went to a freelancing workshop or day here in London, a conference, and each session I'd be sitting next to somebody, or I'd talk to the person who was speaking there, and you exchange business cards, you have a chat about who you are and so on, and who knows what connection you'll make. So connecting with people, I know networking is a bit of a dirty word, but that's definitely one way to build the audience. Sending emails out to people I've not been so good at this, but certainly when you're starting out, nobody knows that Annalie has decided to become a freelance copywriter, right? So you might think that you're writing about it all the time on Facebook. Nobody cares, nobody notices, because everyone's very caught up in their own world. So, we need to be careful with data privacy and so on, but certainly sending, choice email to individuals who you think could maybe know somebody who, etc. And that's often how we get business, someone who knows someone who knows someone. And just let people know, hey, just set up as this. I'm offering a free session. This is the type of person I'm looking to work with. So be as specific as possible. Do you know anyone? Could you pass them on? Could you, let them know this is the workshop I'm doing, whatever it might be. So not very salesy at all. I am here to help you. I'm looking for people who are in their corporate job, who are thinking of leaving and they're not sure and so on. If you know someone, could you give them my details, or vice versa, So that's a really nice way to, use your existing network. And I don't know if you guys have any other ideas. Let me know if there's something else you're doing that works. Something else that I've been doing this year, past year or more actually really, is getting on other people's podcasts. So there are some groups. The big one I'm a member of is She Podcasts. There's quite a few others. Every Tuesday they do podcast pitches. Hey, Memnia needs guests for her podcast. She's talking about getting out of your comfort zone. I'll say, hey, I can talk about getting out of comfort zone, and we'll book that in, and that'll be free. You may start out with, as I have done, very small new podcasts, but don't be a snob, because even they have listeners, and you don't need, again, thousands of people. You just need a handful of people who listen to you, who really appreciate your message, who'll then come to you and listen more. Even if you don't have your own podcast, because that would cost a little bit of money to set up your own podcast. Just go on other people's podcasts. They'll then come to your websites and so on if they like what they hear. So those are the things I had in mind in terms of building an audience. Is there anything new there that you've heard that you think, I must get on Quora, or I should really look to go on other people's podcasts? Let me know if any of that is something you hadn't thought about before and you think would be useful for you. But again, these are creative ways in which you can build an audience. It'll take longer to do SEO and podcasting and so on than it would to blast a Facebook ad or do a Google search ad, but it's really going to give you that sort of steady trickle as you build your foundation. And again, it is very much free. So unfortunately, there's no easy shortcut here. You are going to have to get to work, but it's worth it. And again, if you have little money, if you have no money, this is definitely the way to go. Now, if you have neither time nor money, then I'm afraid we're just going to have to accept that things are going to move much more slowly. So, if you don't have a massive amount of money to connect with people, to connect with people, to go on people's podcasts and so on, if you only have a couple of hours a week to work on this business, it'll take time. It's still possible, but just, sort of reset your expectations and recognise that it's going to take a bit longer, because if you don't have all the money and if you don't have the time to spend, that will just take longer. So those are ideas on building the audience. Now, the final piece I want to talk about is, when should you invest? And this is the big one. I had quite a few questions coming in. So the last 15 minutes or so, let's dig into these. And again, those of you watching live, or if you have, if you're watching the hashtag replay, then let me know and we'll answer your questions after as well. But in terms of when to invest, now, first of all, we've said little budget. How much is little budget? That's really up to you. It depends perhaps on the salary that you have at the moment. Maybe you're still in your full-time salary, in which case you have quite a bit of money that you could potentially invest into the business. Or maybe you're doing some other part-time freelance work, maybe like my marketing consultancy that allows me to funnel that back into my coaching, for example. So then I have a bit more money to play with. What I would say though is you should only invest as much as you're willing to lose, if that makes sense. So there is a big piece in terms of being an entrepreneur, having a business, of investing, having that mindset that you're investing and not just spending money. You're really looking at channeling your money into things like having a team or running ads and things that will then ultimately bring you more clients. And then you're investing in growing that business, even working with a coach, getting the expertise, guidance that you need is an investment. It's not an expense as such. Nonetheless, at the beginning of the journey, you don't know how this is going to go. You do not want to put £100,000 into this and then realise, hang on a second, not working at all, and then cut your losses. I don't know if you ever watch Shark Tank in America or Dragon's Den. I just watched an episode the other day of Dragon's Den. As ever, there's always someone who says, I've spent £500,000 in this business. Have no idea where they get this money from. They might get it from investors or friends and family. And it just pours into this failing business, because if you've got too much money, it's not necessarily a good thing. It means that you're going to, just be spending that money willy-nilly without really thinking about where you're putting it. And it's much better to actually have little money, because then you're going to be much more creative. You'll test things. You'll make sure it's working before you then invest money. So, it's not always a good thing to have money. But again, don't invest money that you're not okay with losing, because at the beginning especially, you are going to be maybe earning a little bit of money, investing that back into the business. You're not going to be able to pull a massive salary from that. And there is a risk that you might lose things as you test and learn, especially if you're doing this yourself. You're just kind of doing trial and error, seeing what happens. You don't have that expertise. It will take time. You will lose some money. So just be aware that, don't put yourself or your family in a precarious situation there. But again, it's the mindset of investing in yourself. We always talk about the analogy of a car. You can't go, hey, when I get to Manchester, which is far away from here, I think, from London, then I'm going to put petrol in the tank. No, I'm going to have to put petrol in the tank in order to get to Manchester. So likewise, you can't say, it's very tempting to say, okay, I will outsource this, I'll get that coach, I'll pay for ads, or whatever it is, when I have replaced my salary, let's say, or when I've made 100,000 or something. Okay, fine. In some cases, that's possible, and it's not a good idea to invest that money unless you've got to that point. It's maybe not necessary either. However, this investment is what's going to get you there, right? So working with the right coach, investing in the right course, and putting the money in the right tool, technology, expertise, whatever it might be, is what's going to get you to that outcome. So don't postpone the investment until you get to the place, because you're never going to get there. It's just, again, maybe not something you want to hear, but just important to recognise. But it is really important to know what that outcome is. What are you trying to achieve? What is your objective? Because then you can work backwards and you can decide strategically what you should be investing in. So rather than, and we had this chat with some clients in our program a few weeks ago. Great, Annalie, it's a good picture, isn't it? The car analogy. It's important to always think about, hang on a second, I can't get there without the fuel. And it's the same thing with the business as well. So as I said, with clients a few weeks ago, we were talking about, and now I lost my track. I got excited about the car analogy. What was I going to say about clients? Important to invest the objective. What are you trying to achieve? Yes, I know. They would say, should I be doing this email marketing software? Should I get this scheduler? Should I do ads? That's the wrong way of looking at it. Of course, I can give you a list and you can see all the things that I'm doing of things that you could do, and you might explore those yourself. However, that's the wrong way to go about it. Don't think that you have to have an email list, you have to have a fancy website, you need the personal branding images, the Facebook ads and so on. No, think, okay, these are my business objectives. The first few months, maybe just exploring, doing market research, in which case that, points you in a certain direction. Or now I really need to focus on building my audience. Okay, my money should probably then go on doing some Facebook ads, even a small investment to get, a broader reach and get people to come into my page. or I really need to start building my email list, because you never know with Facebook and all these different channels, right? I don't own those people. I don't have that in case Mark Zuckerberg shuts down Facebook. I have no way of working with you guys in this fantastic group here. So it's important to me to have your email address so I can also continue supporting you outside of that forum. Okay, then I probably need to look at investing in email marketing software. So really put the objective up front, think of what you're trying to achieve, and then you can work backwards and think, okay, what do I need? Also, by the way, even there, you don't necessarily need to invest in the fancy software up front. When you're talking small numbers, it's possible to do things manually. Again, if you have the time or the manpower, you can email people individually rather than having mass marketing software. You don't need automatic schedulers and things. You can actually do it with a bit of manual back and forth. So again, really challenge yourself. Do I actually need this, or is this something I can have sort of on my wish list to invest in later on? So just want to go through, and I'm coming finally to your question, Annalie, about when to outsource when you have little revenue. And I had a few thoughts as I get to my final few pages here. Hang on, there's a new route. Where's it gone? Here we go. So when to outsource? Now the answer is probably sooner than you think. We did a session on this a few months ago. Unfortunately, the technology wasn't with us, so it disappeared, the video, so we can't point you back to that. But I do have a blog post on it, so I'll share that if you remind me in the comments. But it is sooner than you think. Even if you're like me, wanting to be a solopreneur, you're an individual, you didn't want to have a team, you don't have a lot of money coming in, it's really helpful to start outsourcing before you're comfortable, right? So outside your comfort zone. But what I'd say is, first of all, start small. So, well, some of these sites are a bit controversial, but Fiverr, for example, I have an amazing graphic designer. Unfortunately, she seems to be on holiday right now because I have lots of things I need her to do and she's not answering. She's been fantastic over the years, doing simple little graphics, my PDFs and so on. She can do that for me. So start with something simple on Fiverr. I use rev.com, so rev.com, to do transcripts of my video interviews. They cost $1 a minute. Or if you're happy to use AI, artificial intelligence, it's even cheaper. I think it's like $0.01 a minute. There's a risk that the words won't quite be correct, but nonetheless, that's an option as well. So, again, think of your objective, but think of the stuff that you hate doing, that's super time consuming, that you're not good at. Those are all the kinds of things that you should be outsourcing. Start super, super small. You don't need to go out and, again, outsource all your copywriting and graphic design and website to some professional custom design person, because that's maybe too much too soon. Just start small. As you get comfortable with that, you can start doing more and more. And I've done the same, I've gradually added more and more until now I have, worked. And over the last couple of years, I've worked with some different people. I've got the amazing Cara here on the team and looking to expand that team as well moving forward. So, no need to employ people right away. No need to invest lots and lots of money in these things, but start small would be one way of thinking about it, Annalie. And the second way of thinking about it is what is super important and specialist, right? So if you're not a whiz with numbers, accountancy is a really important area. Understanding the business, making sure you're not doing something wrong when it comes to tax and so on, making sure you don't get burned and hit with a massive bill at the end of the year, making sure you're making tax efficient decisions and so on. Probably working with an accountant is a good choice, even though, again, it's important that you understand and learn things yourself. Maybe legal is really important in your business. You want to make sure you have, whether it's the privacy policy, but the sort of contracts in place, legal protection and so on. Maybe that's something you want to outsource. So the first strategy is sort of outsourcing something really small and trivial. The second strategy is the exact opposite, which is going for the really important specialist tasks that you're not good at, that are really important that you get right. That is where you should be putting your money. Again, with teams and things, you can go pretty low cost. You can start with unpaid interns even from maybe your local university or your university. Then you can gradually get them on board and pay them more. You can get a virtual assistant for not so much money and so on. So again, move away from kind of the full-time employee, massive agency type of fee structure and think creative ways in which how you can get someone. Maybe a friend of yours has a teenage daughter who is a whiz with social media and you can get them to manage your Instagram channel or something like that as a summer job. Who knows? Okay, the summer's over, but nonetheless, maybe there are some university students now looking for work. So thinking creatively about getting interns and cousins and nieces and whatever it might be to work on the business as well. And Sarah had a similar question, which was understanding what needs to be prioritised, where you need the quality. And again, what I've just said applies very much there. What I would say is, arguably I'd say, and maybe you're a copywriter or a graphic designer, you disagree with me, I think things like creating a basic website, writing the copy, creating the graphics up front, totally can be and possibly even should be done by you, right? You can do cheap, free graphics on on Canva. If that's not something you're using, that's where I do most of my, Facebook graphics, Instagram, stories and so on. And copywriting, you know your business best. You understand who your client is, what your brand is, so probably you should be starting to do those things yourself. You don't need to get a massively expensive custom designed website when you're starting out. You can start with those things. Then you can grow and evolve as your business grows and evolves. So as you get those incredible clients coming in, you get the money, then you can invest back into the business. My coach who I work with, I've said this recently, actually her website, her things, I didn't think were super, slick and beautiful, but recently she's had explosive growth in her own business, and I've seen now she's channeling that back in. She's changed her podcast graphics, she's got beautiful images, websites, they're launching an app and so on. So, she was massively successful before she chose to upgrade her website and her images and so on. So you can do incredible things without having a website. I talk about, and sorry, I hope my sister isn't watching, but my brother-in-law has a really successful business, and his website is shocking. He never updates it. As a digital person myself, it's terrible in every way. Doesn't matter, he gets the business anyway. So not to say that that's the case, and I like to think that my website is an important part of my brand ecosystem, but just to reassure you that when you're starting out, it's really the conversations you're having with people. It's making sure that you're understanding their needs, their problems. You have that client who's willing and able to pay. That's much more important than having the fancy schmancy stuff. So if in doubt, probably you don't need it. And then, to be honest, it's a bit of trial and error, and it's up to you. So a few years ago, I briefed somebody on Fiverr to do my logo. I had some idea of having some balloons and watercolour. Yes, I got some watercolour balloons. Wasn't very good. I used it for a few weeks and then I gave up on that. I then invested on 99 Designs. It's a platform, sort of a peer crowd design function where you get lots of designers from all around the world submitting their designs. I've done my book cover there. I've got my Dreamcatcher One Step Outside logo from there that I'm really happy with. I got so many different options there. That's more money than some people want to spend. I think it was £200-300, but again, compared to a custom graphic designer, that was great. But I found then that Fiverr was not good enough for me. I went to 99 Designs. You might say, actually, the Fiverr logo is perfect for you. You don't need to go further. Some people can even, patch something together themselves. So it's really up to you. I know maybe not the answer you're after, but in terms of making that decision, bit of trial and error. And do you feel like this is representative of your brand? If not, you can also have a goal, once I get my 5th client, or, in January, when I have some more money or whatever it might be, then I will, or I'll put some money aside so that I can get a new logo next year or something. But just to reassure you, a lot of that fancy stuff isn't necessary in order to actually get that business. And then Katrina and Charlotte had some really interesting questions to finish with, so I'll conclude in a moment with their questions. In the meantime, those of you who are watching, and again, if you're watching the replay, as we wrap up, because we are getting to 9 o'clock here in the UK, then do let me know if you have any final thoughts, questions, what we've covered. I've tried to pack lots into the last hour, so hopefully it's answered some of the questions you had, but again, if you have any others, let me know. But Katrina said, I'm finding there are so many courses, etc., that people want to sell you. Any tips on what's worth investing in? Also, what's going to give the biggest impact for a short amount of time? And then Charlotte said, getting rid of shiny object syndrome. So there are so many claims that aren't true. You get stung by false claims. You haven't learned anything. How do you build confidence to trust someone, and any hidden tips for figuring authenticity? Now, the first thing to say is, yes, shiny object syndrome, the struggle is real. I know what you mean. And there's so much, stuff going on. I'm just going to get some water now. I think I've lost my voice. Excuse me. I got through the whole hour this time without coughing, so hang on a second. Excuse me. We'll see how I get through. Apologies. Not sure what happened there. I got overexcited, but nonetheless, try to get through the last few hours, minutes. Shiny object syndrome. Now I'm going to cough again. Sorry, guys. the wonders of doing live presentations. I'll try to dial back my enthusiasm and then hopefully we'll do a bit better. Hang on a second. Okay, so ending up on that question, shiny object syndrome. What I say is, first, it goes back to your strategy. Forget about this is so exciting, oh my god, this is what I want to do and so on, this sounds amazing, their sales pitch is so powerful, I'm going to go with that. Think about, what am I trying to achieve? And that might be big picture strategy, but it might also be some specifics. So maybe, again, going back to some examples I shared a moment ago, you really want to or need to build your email list. You have no idea how to do it. There's people, I think, like Jenna Kutcher is constantly bombarding me on Instagram with, I can help you build your email list. Maybe that's a course you want to consider if you're specifically looking to learn how to build your email list. And I'd often advise you, to be honest, to focus on one thing at a time. Maybe you desperately want to do a webinar, you think that's the best way to sell to your clients, in which case you might find someone who teaches webinars. Facebook ads, maybe somebody's teaching Facebook ads. So that's the thing to think about, the strategy. First of all, think about the content, right? That you want to be investing in that course, for example. The second thing, of course, is who the person is. Oh no, also not just the particular content, but also it might be something a bit less tangible. So maybe you're really after accountability or community. So think about those aspects. Does this course or program give me that camaraderie and community that I'm really after, bouncing ideas back and forth? Does it give me the accountability, the regular checking in that I really want? So those are things to ask yourself in terms of where you should be investing. And then I'm going to cough one more time. Oh dear. And then apologies again. Then you want to think about the person. Authenticity. I mean, it's such an overused word. I actually had authenticity as one of my values when I first did that exploration exercise, leaving my corporate job. So important to be yourself. What I have to say is, I think it's easier than ever before to judge, to understand, to evaluate people before you buy now. No longer do you have to just, pay the money and then hope it's going to be a good product or service. You can absolutely sign up to their email lists, read all their website, their pages and so on, join their webinars, listen to their podcasts, and watch their live videos, get a feel for who they are, get an understanding of, do they actually have expertise in what they're talking about? Is this just regurgitating what every other coach is saying and they have nothing new to say for themselves? Can I really relate to this person? Does it feel like we have the right vibe, and so on? So both, do I trust their expertise? Do I trust them as a person, integrity, and so on? I had a client recently saying that she had a very bad experience with someone. Again, a lot of us have been burnt, and she said very kindly that made her realise that, how good I was for her, at least, So my style, my way of coaching, my sort of proper coach training and integrity there really shone through compared to this other coach who was doing all sorts of things that are really not what we should be doing as coaches at all. So again, if you have been burned, I recognise it's difficult, but I'd give you the advice is, again, consume that person's content, get a feel for it, ask the hard questions, especially if you've had a bit difficult experience before, and make sure you're asking those questions so you can find the holes in their matrix, whatever, so you feel like you're really reassured that yes, they do understand what's happening. You can get on a consultation call. We all offer these discovery calls, consult calls. Most people who are investing, whether it's a coach or a consultant or maybe even some graphic designers and that kind of thing, if you're paying enough money, will get you on the phone and you can really talk through, this is my brief to you, and making sure that they understand and so on. I do that with my corporate clients as well. They always want to have that proposal up front to make sure that you understand them. And why not ask to speak to a current or past client, right? In my case, I'd be happy to do that. So if ever you guys, have any thoughts, doubts about my coaching or my programs, I'll be happy to put you in touch with people who are in the programs at the moment, who have been in the past, and you can then have an offline conversation. So it's no longer just me telling you, yes, my program is amazing, but you can actually ask those other people. Of course, testimonials and so on are things that I have and everybody has, but really speaking to that past or current client can be really helpful. So hopefully that gives a bit of an answer to your question around, shiny objects. Think about the strategy, think about what you're trying to achieve, and then make sure you're doing your due diligence on consuming their content, use their free stuff, get a feel for what they're doing, their style and their expertise, and above all, trust your intuition. I think most of the time you have a feeling for if they're right for you or not. So hopefully that's helpful. I've seen your comment, Annalise, so I promise I will check that in a second. I just wanted to answer the final question that I realised was around Diane's here, around networking, which I think is a really interesting one. So funnily enough, Diane was asking how to know which networking events to go to. My ideal client attends them. Most ask for $30, $35 for lunch. One networking per week adds up to $100 per month. Yikes. Okay, so funnily enough, I have a colleague who I can connect you with if you want, who is also an image consultant, works in a similar area to you, and she used to get all her clients from networking. I want to say I'm not a good networker, but I've not chosen to do a lot of networking, because I like this idea of location independence and being a bit freer and working from home and so on, although I love going to events and talking to people. She realised that she got all her clients from networking and events, and that was actually an issue because as soon as she was ill, she was on holiday, maybe pregnant or maternity leave, that died down. It meant no clients were coming in. So that's just my first watch out. I wouldn't become too dependent on any source of clients, not just networking, but any kind of source. The second thing I'd say is, as ever, think of the strategy. So think of who's organising it, who is your ideal client, are they actually attending there? Many conferences and networking events are just full of desperate consultants and coaches and experts who are trying to sell their services, which is not very helpful. They're not necessarily, they may be your clients, but you're maybe looking for the big companies who aren't there, or the individuals who are at home not going to those events. So that's one thing to think about. Who's organising? Is it really the right place to be? Apart from that, to be honest, it's just maths. So to be honest, $100, it's not very much if you get one client per month at $1,000, right? Or let's say you're going to one event a week, that's 4 events a month, and each event you get at least one client, that's 4 clients a month. $100 doesn't sound too bad to me to get 4 clients. So it's to do with your conversion rate. If I go to 5 events, how many clients do I get from that? And then at what price point? Because obviously, if I'm getting one client at $45 packages, maybe, that's not going to be worth paying $100. But again, if I'm getting one client paying $1,000, $5,000, or even 4 clients, 8 clients, then suddenly it becomes a very different story. So think of the maths. This applies to everything else we do too. So Facebook ads again, right? It might seem a lot to spend £500 on Facebook ads, but if you get from that 3 new clients who are each spending £1,000, boom, that's fantastic. Of course you can spend £500. So it's again thinking of investing the money. You shouldn't be going to an event if it's not bringing you clients anyway. So think about where your clients are coming from, and think about the maths there, essentially your conversion rate and the price point, and that's how you're going to work out if it's worth doing. The only other thing to say there is the opportunity cost. You're spending $100 on those events. Where could you be spending that money if not on those events, right? So if I can spend $100 there and get 1 client, or I can spend $100 on Facebook ads and I'll get 5 clients, then obviously I'd rather do the Facebook ads and I'd forget about the networking. So obviously it's very much based on your particular industry, your business, your clients and so on, but ultimately there is a lot of maths involved. So that's all I had for you. I'm just going to check Annalise talk about writing a book, which is one of my favourite topics. Let's just see. Oops, sorry, Espan. Writing a book is a way to grow your reach and establish authority expert status. How do you publish a book? Yeah, absolutely. Annalie, it is sort of a different training, and maybe we can submit this as a topic, and I'll put that actually, if you want to post that in the group, Annalie, we can have that as a possible topic for another session, because I think it's an important one and something that I'm sure lots of people are keen to do. I know lots of us want to write books and publish books. Specifically in the context of tonight's topic, yes, it is pretty, first of all, low cost to write and publish a book, in the sense that, and I did everything myself essentially. I paid for the book cover. As I said, I'm not a designer, so I paid for the book cover. My second book, my first book actually, my friend Serena, aka the famous baker who I was talking about a moment ago, did the cover design for our initial book that we did when we first left our corporate jobs. So that was free as well. I did all the editing, formatting inside, and because now Amazon and other places too, but Amazon has both Kindle and paperback, what's it called, on demand publishing rights. It means you don't pay anything, you just pay a fee based on when the book gets sold. So yes, I get a few author copies and so on, but I don't have to buy 10,000 books and then sell them. So the answer is, in terms of little budget, I can write and publish a book at almost zero cost, which is incredible. Now, that's not to say it's free, because of course it's taken a lot of time to write the book, and a lot of blood, sweat and tears, especially to format and edit it, to be honest. If I did that again, I would, and when I do it again, because I definitely will, I'm hoping to publish my next book next year, and then I definitely outsource that to somebody. But again, you can do it relatively low cost. However, in terms of growing your reach specifically, I wouldn't say that writing a book will grow your reach only if you then market it, in which case you get into all these avenues that we said, maybe Facebook ads, the social media, the podcast, the speaking, the events and things, right? So just writing the book is just like putting up a website, writing a book that sits here on my shelf, very nice. Nobody cares unless I actually market it. So in terms of growing an audience, the book is a great piece of content, but it's not going to itself grow the audience. However, your second point in terms of establishing authority expert, absolutely. Because how great doesn't it sound if I go, hey, I'm the author of Leaving the Corporate 9 to 5. Author, which has, by the way, taken me some time to be able to say, but I love saying it, is a, really sort of credible expert type of role. Even when you're publishing now yourself, self-publishing isn't looked down on as it was in the past. It used to be quite a vanity project, but now it's really something that, it can be very high quality, and making sure you have the good book cover design, copywriting, copy editing rather, proofreading and so on, of course, is very important. But it is really a fantastic way to establish your expertise. It's then an avenue to use to build your authority and audience. You can then go on podcasts talking about this book. You can contact publications and be an expert features. They'll then say, Anna Lee, author of this book. And that'll be much more interesting than just saying, hey, Anna Lee is a random person who wants to talk about this thing, right? So absolutely fantastic. And I would love to talk more about that. So let me know if you have specific questions on that. But otherwise, I'd love to make a whole session on that because I think it's an interesting topic. So, we've gone over now. I did think I would because I had so many notes, but I think we've got through it all. I hope I covered the questions that I got ahead of time and a few that we got live now as well. Again, if you're watching the replay, hello, thank you so much for joining. And I hope you've been adding your questions. I will surely come back and answer those when I can. And the rest of you who've joined live, Anna Lee, Memnia, and I can barely remember everybody, like Angela who had to leave as well, sorry, but thank you so much everybody for joining. And those of you who voted for this topic, hopefully it's given you some of the answers you're looking for, whether you're right at the beginning of the process and you're looking at your strategy, your business model, or if you just wanted some new ideas of how you can build your audience, when should you start outsourcing and so on. Hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Annalie. Really lovely to see you, and hopefully see you on future training as well. Again, this is a monthly workshop. If you have ideas like Annalie for a topic, do submit it. Private message me, post it in the group, whatever you like to do. We'll do a monthly poll, and then we'll make sure that we arrange a training on the popular topics. And I have some other resources I can always send you guys too if it's not something that's going to be voted for. And just one last push for the Corporate Escape Plan workshop, which is starting next Sunday, the 15th September. If you're not signed up, it's like this, but again, much more engaging, interactive. It won't just be me talking at you. It's lots of work on your side to help you design your personal roadmap to leave the 9 to 5. And remember, escaping is not just saying I quit or establishing your website, boom, that's my business, but it is actually replacing your income and actually navigating that escape to be a long-term sustainable career choice for you. So do again private message me your email if you're not signed up yet, or you can sign up at onestepaside.com/escape. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. Those of you watching live, thank you, and those of you who are watching the replay as well, thanks so much, and I will see you back here very soon. If not before then, I will see you in the workshop next Sunday. Thanks so much for watching, and go off now and do some business building with very little budget, hopefully, after today. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.